Hey guys, hope y'all are having a good day. Today we're going to talk about job interviews. We've already talked about resumes, cover letters, and the job application. So let's imagine that you've all done just an outstanding resume, written a good cover letter, and you filled out an application and you've been called in for an interview. We're going to talk about what an interview is, purpose of an interview, and I'm going to give you some tips and some very common questions and how to answer those questions that are asked in interviews. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's answer the question, what is an interview and what is the purpose of an interview? So an interview is basically you and the employer just having a meeting. They're going to be asking you all types of questions, trying to get to know you, see how you answer those questions, and see if they like you or not. Purpose of this is for the hiring manager to learn more about you, and also you to learn more about the company. So look at it like that. It's not just for the employer; it's also for you. It's a chance for you to find out more about the employer. All right. So how do you get called in for an interview? So most of the time this is going to be a phone call or email. So that's why it's important to give good contact info whenever you're doing the application and the resume. So if you're chosen as a candidate for the job, you will be interviewed. The manager or someone who works for the manager will contact you using the contact info that you provided to them, either phone call or email. It could be regular mail too, but that probably most likely won't happen. So it'll probably be just phone call or email. So who is involved in the interview process? It's going to be you, the interviewee, the hiring manager. Sometimes there might be a panel of interviewers, so it could be an assistant manager or somebody, along with the actual hiring manager. I've never been a part of a interview that had a hiring committee. It's always just been one-on-one, but just always keep in mind that is a possibility. It could be more than just one person interviewing you at a time, so be prepared for that. Alright. So we're going to talk about some interview do's and don'ts. Alright, let me get the page pulled up. All right, some do's and don'ts of job interviewing. So you do want to wear dress pants or a skirt for girls that reaches your knees. So guys, wear your dress pants. Girls, make sure if you're wearing a skirt, it needs to be to your knees at least. You want to make sure you pay attention to your personal grooming and cleanliness. You want to be clean. You want to be well groomed. You don't want to walk in there looking sloppy, dirty, nasty, stinky, none of that. You want to know the exact time and location of your interview. Make sure you're on time. Know exactly where it is. Do the homework for that ahead of time. Do it the night before. Find out exactly where you got to go. Get directions. Make sure you're on time. Make sure you're at least 10 minutes early. Sorry about that. Make sure you treat all people you encounter with courtesy and respect. That could be the administrative assistant out in the front lobby, the receptionist, anybody you meet in the building. Make sure you make a good first impression, because that hiring manager might ask them what they thought about you. Make sure you show a positive attitude during the interview. Make sure you're happy to be there, excited for the opportunity. Make sure in your responses when you're asked questions, make sure you're very thorough in your response, but you don't want to ramble on forever. So make sure you get straight to the point, answer the question, but don't ramble on too long. Don't fill in a lot of unnecessary info into your answers. Now let's go to some don'ts. Don't wear a blouse or a dress that's too revealing. Yes. Okay, I'll be out there in just a second. Okay. Make sure you don't wear lots of jewelry. You don't want to walk in there looking like Mr. T. I don't know if you guys might be too young to know who Mr. T is, but he wore lots of jewelry, so don't go in there wearing lots of jewelry. Don't wear clothing with sequins, girls. It's better to be conservative. Don't make negative comments about your previous employers. Remember, we talked about that last lesson. Don't badmouth your previous employer. Make sure you don't lie on your interview questions. Make sure you're not late. Don't give the impression that you're only interested in salary. So don't just ask about salary and benefits until your interview brings up the subject. So you don't want to be the first one to ask about that. Make sure that's if the subject comes up, then you can talk about it. But don't bring it up first unless the interviewer asks you about it. You don't want to act too desperate for the job. So don't act as though you're desperate for a job. It's a bad look. You don't want to be unprepared for common interview questions. So I'm going to try to prepare you guys for some common interview questions today. So that'll help you out with that. Don't refer to the interviewer as dude or man or homie or anything like that. Be professional. You don't want to chew gum while you're in an interview. So if you're chewing gum when you get there, make sure you spit it out before you walk in for the interview. All right, those were just some quick do's and don'ts. Now we're going to go over some common interview questions and kind of some tips on how to answer those questions. So one question that you're going to be asked in any interview you do is, well, it's actually not a question, but it's tell me about yourself. When they ask you this, they're not asking for your life story. They're just basically wanting just a little bit about you. Just a quick summary of your experience, your skills, your education, real quick. You don't want to go into your life story, anything personal, anything like that. Just a real quick, simple answer. Like I said, quick, concise about your education and experience. Another common question: what is your greatest strength? For this question, you want to figure out your number one strength or skill and then talk briefly about it. Always have that in the back of your head. Like, you need to know one thing that you're really good at. So your greatest strength, because they're going to ask you about it. Another question: can you describe a situation in your past where you learned from a mistake? So make sure you have a good example of this, because you'll probably be asked that. Just try to think of about any time in your life that you made a mistake and how you learned from it and corrected that mistake. Another common question is, what is the most difficult situation you've ever been faced, or you have ever faced? Same thing here. Just think back in a time when you faced a difficult situation in your life, and explain how you navigated through that difficult situation. Another question: is there anything you would like to improve about yourself? So this is basically asking, what's your weakness. My advice on this one is, don't say that I don't have any weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses. Your goal with this question is to, give something that that you could use, or that you could be a little bit better at, something you're not really good at, and kind of elaborate on it, and then tell the interviewer how you're working to improve that weakness. All right. So another one. You might be asked what motivates you. So you can mention specific skills that you're motivated to use, such as problem solving, decision making, listening, writing, speaking, planning, or counseling people. Another one that's real common is, why would you like to work for us? This question is a good opportunity to impress the interviewer with what you know about their company or their business. So this is one of those questions where it's good to have done some research about the company before you go in for the interview. You could use this opportunity to talk about the positive aspects of their organization. Another one you might be asked is, why should I hire you? This one is another great opportunity to sell yourself. Talk about your strengths, how they fit the needs of the company. You can briefly talk about your skills or strengths that haven't already been discussed. So another opportunity to talk about your skills and strengths. All right, those were some common interview questions and some real quick tips on how to go about answering those. Got another video after this one's done. It's interview tips for teens. Should be really good for you guys. And then you're going to get a worksheet, 101 interview questions. I would like for you guys to go through those and start answering those. Try to imagine yourself in an actual interview and use that as practice to come up with answers for those questions, because they're very likely questions that will be answered in future interviews for you guys. So I hope you guys take it seriously and use it as an opportunity to prepare for interviews that you might have in the future. So that'll be what you work on for the rest of the day and tomorrow. And I will talk to you guys on Friday. Have a good day.